Shame is a quiet weight. It doesn't shout. It doesn't push, it lingers. It wraps itself around your shoulders after the world has gone quiet. It visits you in the silence after failure, whispering lies like, "You should have known better," or "You were never good enough to try." But shame doesn't come from truth. It comes from fear dressed as regret. To try is to stand against everything that says, "Stay safe." It means you were willing to move, to risk, to reach. And even if you fell short, you moved. You stood where many stayed silent. You acted where many only imagined. That is not weakness. That is strength most people never touch. Failure is not a period. It's a comma, a pause, a moment in the middle of a sentence that hasn't finished being written. It's not the end of your story, just the end of a chapter. The mistake is not trying and failing. The mistake is believing that failing means you were wrong to try. Expectations can become prisons. You carry the weight of what others thought you should be. The pressure to succeed quickly, loudly, perfectly. And when you fall, their silence can feel louder than applause ever did. But their expectations were never yours to carry. You were made to grow, not to perform. Comparison poisons the soul. When you measure your failures next to someone else's highlight reel, you shrink. You forget that their success might have grown from failures you never saw. And while you hide your fall, they might be hiding theirs. Comparison breeds shame, but compassion? Compassion builds courage. There is something uniquely painful about failing in public. When your effort becomes someone else's entertainment. When your voice trembles and your plans collapse, not in private, but under the weight of watching eyes. But hear this, public failure is still sacred, because you were brave enough to be seen. Criticism often arrives wearing the mask of truth. It says it's here to help, but it rarely sees the full picture. It doesn't see the nights you stayed up preparing, the hours you spent gathering the nerve to act. It only sees the moment you missed. And yet, even that moment matters. Because you tried. There's a lie we all fight. I'm not good enough. It doesn't come from one failure. It comes from 1,000 tiny echoes. A voice planted long ago that repeats over and over that your worth is tied to your success. But it's not. Your worth is in the trying, the daring, the showing up, even when it's hard. Not every effort gets recognized. Some go unseen, uncelebrated, unacknowledged. But that doesn't make them any less real. The job application you sent, the apology you offered, the step you took. No one may have noticed, but heaven did. And sometimes that's enough. To fail is to reject the safety of stagnation. It's to declare war on comfort. You didn't stay where it was easy. You didn't accept the quiet death of never trying. You stepped out. You stumbled maybe, but your feet moved. And that means you're alive. Excellence rarely comes without falling first. The people we admire most, those who seem untouchable, have stories lined with missteps, closed doors, broken plans. But somewhere in those cracks, excellence was born. Not because they avoided failure, but because they met it and kept going. There's something sacred about choosing to act while others only comment. It's easy to point fingers from the sidelines. Easy to laugh, to mock, to judge. But to rise, to put your hands on. The work to give something of yourself. Even when you know it might not go well. That's something few are willing to do. Sometimes. The fall opens doors that success would have kept closed. A failure reroutes you. It breaks something that needed breaking. It strips illusions. And in that breaking, in that unexpected shift, something new has space to grow, something real, something honest. Failing means you were in motion. You didn't freeze. You didn't hide. You moved. And that movement carries value, even if the result wasn't what you hoped. Because every action creates ripples. And those ripples shape your future in ways you can't see yet. Some of life's deepest wisdom comes not in victory, but in the rubble after the fall, in the quiet after the applause fades, in the questions that rise when the plan doesn't work. If you listen closely, those moments teach you what success can't. They refine you. And in that refining, you become stronger than before. Failure isn't something that breaks you, it purifies you. It burns off pride. It humbles the ego. It brings you back to what matters. There is clarity in failure. And if you don't let shame cloud your view, you'll see that failure wasn't the end. It was the clearing dock to love yourself when everything's going well is easy. But to love yourself after falling, after messing up, after missing the mark, that's powerful. That's healing. That's where the shame begins to lose its voice. Because you're no longer waiting to be perfect before offering yourself compassion. Criticism will always exist. But often, it says more about the critic than about you. Their words reflect their fears, their jealousy, their own shame. You can listen, you can learn, but don't carry what was never yours to hold. Not every voice deserves space in your spirit. The comeback is always quieter than the fall. No one sees the long nights, the private prayers, the small steps you take. When no one's watching, they won't celebrate your return until it's loud. But don't wait for that. Celebrate the silence. Honor the process. You're rising again, and that's enough. There is dignity in re-entering the arena, in coming back after failure, not with arrogance, but with resolve, with more wisdom, with softer eyes and stronger steps. You don't need to prove anything. Just show up again. Try again. Let your life be a testament to endurance. Even Christ, in his final moments, was seen by many as a failure, betrayed, mocked, crucified. To the world, it looked like the mission had ended in defeat. But that's the mystery of divine purpose. What looks like loss in the eyes of man is often the seed of resurrection in the hands of God. Most journeys of healing happen in silence. You won't see the progress at first. No one will applaud the nights you didn't quit, the mornings you got out of bed with a broken heart. But those are the victories that count, the invisible ones, the private ones, the ones that prove you're still in the fight. Hope walks with those who keep trying. It doesn't run. It doesn't shout. It walks beside the weary. It stays when results don't come. It whispers, try again, begin again. Just take one more step. And those who keep stepping, even in the dark, are never truly failing. Failure doesn't write your future. It only asks a question. Will you stop here or keep going? You decide the direction. You decide the meaning. The fall may have felt final, but your next action is what defines the story, not the fall itself. Every time you begin again, you do it with more wisdom. More scars, maybe, but also more insight. You know where it hurt last time. You know what matters now. That knowledge makes the next step stronger, even if it still feels shaky. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Trying again is not desperation. It's loyalty to your calling, to your soul, to the purpose God placed in you. It says, I won't measure myself by outcomes. I will measure myself by obedience. You're not chasing results. You're walking in faith. Some failures were actually protections. A missed door, a broken relationship, a plan that didn't go through. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. And now, years later, you can see it. It had to fall apart so something better could begin. There is power in scars that are shown without shame. When someone says, this is where I broke, this is where I failed, but look, I'm still here. That kind of honesty sets people free. It creates space for others to try too. Your wounds become someone else's permission, even The seeds you planted that didn't grow taught you something. How to prepare better soil. How to wait with more patience. How to water without demanding control. Not every seed was wasted. Some just needed time. Some weren't meant to bloom the way you imagined. God never turned his face away from those who failed trying. The woman at the well, Peter when he sank, Thomas in his doubt. He didn't shame them. He met them. Right in the middle of the fall, that same grace is waiting for you. Not after you succeed, but here now as you rise. You don't need to impress. Just stay faithful. Faithful to what was placed in your hands. Faithful to the small beginnings. Faithful to the unseen progress. The world celebrates winners, but heaven celebrates the faithful. The ones who show up, the ones who try again. Failure is not a flaw. It's a fire. One that burns away the superficial, the pride, the performance. And when the flames pass, what remains is real, solid, untouched by applause or opinion. You may have failed, but you are not a failure. You are becoming refined. Trying, falling, and getting up again is the baptism of authenticity. It strips away the masks. It teaches you who you are beneath the roles, the titles, the image. You become grounded, humble, real. And from that place, you can begin to live with freedom. Perfection was never the goal. The goal was obedience. The goal was surrender. The goal was courage. And those goals are often achieved in messy, broken steps. When you let go of the pressure to impress, you finally start to live. There's beauty in the unfinished, in the chapters still being written, in the work that's still raw. The world tells you to wait until it's perfect to share. But sometimes, what someone needs is your process, not your polish. Your honesty, not your highlight. Your scars are not shameful. They're sacred. They tell the story of who you were and who you chose to become. They're proof that you faced the hard parts and came through, not untouched, but alive. And that's more than enough. Got the things you've learned through failure. No book could have taught. No mentor could have transferred. They had to be lived, felt, survived, and now you carry a wisdom that no one can take from you. That's the reward that failure gave. Grace walks closest to those who've fallen because it knows how hard it is to stand again. It meets you in the dust. It lifts your chin. And it whispers, "You're still mine, still worthy, still chosen." Not after you win, but here, in the middle of the trying, you are still on the way, still learning, still breathing. That means your story is still being written. Don't let shame hold the pen. Let faith guide the next word. Let love shape the next page. Let hope write the next sentence. Failure never gets the final word. The last word belongs to the one who keeps going, who falls 7 times and rises 8, who cries, then creates, who doubts, then dares. So try again, not because it's easy, not because you're unshaken, but because you were never meant to live in shame. You were made to live in motion.